The important thing with the dust diseases claim is to act with urgency. It's to act with concern and sensitivity for the fact that generally you or the person that you love is ill and needing medical attention. It's very daunting to be involved in a legal process. The medical process is an overwhelming thing of itself for people to handle. The notion of dealing with lawyers is probably for many people just not on the radar. So what we need to do is to have an easy dialogue early so that the litigation can be prepared almost from a statement that we'd take from you very early on, which hopefully would be comprehensive about your life and your exposure to asbestos or some asbestos product, which invariably has led to the illness from which you're now suffering. Your dad's situation is typical of the sort of early question that I receive, usually a phone call from someone like you or your mum, or somebody close to your dad who has picked up a diagnosis and is in acting with the concern of someone that needs some legal advice. The 20-year period is probably the early time period in the range. The way in which asbestos acts is that one fibre might penetrate the pleura from being inhaled or ingested, and over time it progresses into the outer layer or the mesothelium around the pleura, and a cancer begins. That may take 40 years. So a long history is a typical situation, and the claim is not barred by time as would normally occur in civil litigation in New South Wales. Well, it's the same as general compensation law. So there is a compensation for the pain and suffering. If you're suffering with mesothelioma, it may be in the order of $300,000 for your pain and suffering. Depending on circumstances, it could be less or could be more. Beyond that, if you're still working, then of course the economic loss that you're going to suffer by having to leave work and loss of those future years that you had in the workforce will all be compensated according to what your earnings are and will continue to be. It's not capped. It's a common law process. It doesn't suffer the sort of limitations that operate in other jurisdictions. Yeah, very much in relation to the claim resolution process that operates in the Dust Diseases Tribunal. You really would be struggling without the assistance of a lawyer that knows the process. The costs are claimed as part of the process, and generally speaking, that the claim proceeds on the basis that I do it all on a conditional costs arrangement, so that once the claim is successful, the fees are paid. I've had situations where I've had instructions one day and begun the court process the next day. In the normal course of events, with the life expectancy known, the timetable would operate to ensure that that claim is processed before the illness completely debilitates. This is the important thing about the process, that it's essential that the statement of claim be filed in the tribunal before that occurs. As long as the proceedings are on foot, then the rules of the Dust Diseases Tribunal ensure that the damages, the compensation, right continues after death. And that is unique to the Dust Diseases Tribunal. Generally speaking, legal rights are, in the Latin phrase, in personam. It means it belongs to the person who suffers the injury. That means that, normally speaking, the damages that you could get for an estate would be confined up to the date of the death. In this case, you have the estate claim, but you have the persisting damages after death, but you must get the statement of claim on, meaning you need to see the lawyer. The lawyer needs to ensure that that statement of claim is filed and in the court. The tribunal is well used to convening court at a hospital bed, at somebody's home, at the place where it is convenient to take the plaintiff's evidence. I think probably the first mesothelioma claim I did was in, if not 1990, in the early 1990s. I am, outside of my private practice for clients, a contributions assessor, which is part of the process in the Dust Diseases claims resolution process. And I will be from time to time appointed to assess where there have been more than one exposure, for example, by various wrongdoers, maybe the employer, maybe the manufacturer of asbestos products, maybe the neighbour who conducted something that caused you to be exposed. So sometimes it's necessary for the contributions assessor to, according to a regime, work out what responsibility each of those wrongdoers carries, and so I've had a lot of experience in that work as well. If you contact this firm, you will be dealing with me. My line is always open, and I hope you'll find that I'm very accessible. I won't be delegating this work to somebody else. It's an area of expertise that I have at the firm, and if you are concerned that you're going to go into some big well at a big firm and be passed off to some junior solicitor, that's not what happens at this firm. It doesn't cost you anything to make a phone call and have a chat with me, and I can pretty quickly let you know what claim might be available or is not available, and what we would need to do to ensure that the claim progresses as quickly or deliberately as is appropriate.